Dustin May strikes out 9 in an electrifying return for the Dodgers from Tommy John surgery. The Chargers rebuilt their special teams from last year, and after last night, I think it's back to the drawing board. And the Rams, they've lost their top draft pick for the year. Yikes. Hi, I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is Faithful Angelenos. It's August 21st, 2022. It's a glorious Sunday. After I'm done with this tape, I'm going to enjoy some Premier League soccer with a beer in my hand and sneaking glances at my gorgeous wife. But before we do that, or at least I'm doing that, don't you creeps start staring at my wife. Anyway, let's take a look at the scoreboard. Yesterday, Dustin May, it was his first time on the mound since May of last year when he had the Tommy John surgery. Wow, 9 strikeouts in 5 innings. He only allowed 1 hit, 0 runs allowed. Dodgers 7, Miami 0. Will Smith and Justin Turner, by the way, hit 3-run home runs each. The Dodgers have an 18-game lead in the NL West. LAFC's 7-match winning streak comes to an end in a startling little development. San Jose 2, LAFC 1. Now the black and gold, they're still going to MLS Cup playoffs. That's been established. And then also in brighter news, that match took place up in San Jose because we otherwise would have had yet another brawl with LAFC fans. Am I right, people? Have you seen the clips on Twitter? Finally, Dallas. Man, that was a blowout at halftime. Dallas 32, Chargers 18. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Meanwhile, today, Miami's going to play the Dodgers one last time. That's at 1 o'clock. Ryan Pepio is 1-0 for the Dodgers. Sandy Alcantara, 11-5 for the Marlins. By the way, clickety-clack the like button or subscribe button if you like the content we've been putting out about LA sports. There's a notification bell that'll let you know when we have new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means comment. You're going to find out LA has a lot of news to talk about. Let's start off going back to the ravine. I could go with a bunch of superlatives about Dustin May, but why do that when I can have his coaches and his teammates speak for him? Manager Dave Roberts called him a game changer last night. Catcher Austin Barnes, quote, "that ball's coming in really hot," unquote. Keep in mind, Dustin May threw 16 pitches last night that were at least 98 miles an hour, and a couple of them in triple digits. By the way, none of the final 13 batters that he faced reached base. Crazy. Quote, "I think people look at him out on the mound and they think this guy is a psycho," unquote, according to assistant pitching coach Connor McGinnis, which is ironically what people used to write on my high school yearbook. But we'll let the police sort that out. Other notes for the Dodgers, because look, what May is doing is he might wind up posing an interesting question for the Dodgers as to how the postseason pitching rotation goes. We know we're going to have Julio Urias. We know that we're going to have Tony Gonsolin. We're pretty sure we're going to have Clayton Kershaw. J.P. Hornstra of Los Angeles News Group reports that Kershaw could be back as early as the second week of September. He has no more pain. He's throwing bullpen sessions. So why would you not include Clayton Kershaw? But then what do? Do you have a 4-man rotation with Tyler Anderson and Justin May coming out of the bullpen? Do you reverse it? Do you have a 5-man rotation in the playoffs? All fascinating questions that Roberts has to come up with an answer for. Also for the Dodgers, some injury news. Relief pitcher Blake Trinan, he pitched in Oklahoma City Saturday night. Victor Gonzalez might join him soon on a rehab assignment. And Tommy Conley is close to a rehab assignment. All 3 of them relief pitchers. The Dodgers bullpen, with the exception of closer, still pretty damn solid. And we earlier reported from the Dodgers that Dave Roberts was skeptical Danny Duffy would pitch at all for them this year. Now they're saying there's a possibility. So your guess is as good as mine. Now, if you're a Chargers fan, you might look at last night's booty kicking over at SoFi You might even say, okay, well, the Chargers are 0-2, and that's not pleasant, but they're not playing a lot of their starters. Last night, the Chargers didn't play 18 of them, for example. And normally, I would absolutely grant you that point. But special teams doesn't include a lot of starters. And that's a problem. You see, the Chargers last night allowed 2 special teams touchdowns in the first half. That's what allowed the game to go flying away for them before the seats were even warm. If you think about it, in the offseason, they changed their punter. They changed their kick returner. They changed their long snapper. They replaced 2 special teams assistant coaches, and they're still giving up big plays on punt and kickoff returns. Something they need to address. Other things that didn't particularly go well for the Bolts last night, we've mentioned two of the main battles is for right tackle. Neither Trey Pipkins or Storm Norton stood out last night, according to Brandon Staley, and backup running back. Staley wasn't pleased about anything pretty much last night. I can't say that I blame him, but backup running back, nobody stood out there either. Very interesting developments out of Rams camp. Right guard Logan Bruss, he is out for the year. He tore both the anterior cruciate ligament and the median cruciate ligament of his right knee. If you're gonna jack up your knee, my man did the job thoroughly. I'll give him credit for that. He is a 3rd-round pick out of Wisconsin. Now, to be honest with you, it was highly unlikely he was going to start. We've talked about that in earlier clips, how rookies are rarely going to be starters for the Rams on the offensive line. We went through the history of it. Sean McVay is loath to do it. So in the intermediate time, it's probably not too damaging, but you still wanted to get the guy sometime, right? Coleman Shelton, by default now, is going to be the starting right guard. Also, tight end Kendall Blanton, who started for the Rams in the Super Bowl, got cut yesterday. Now keep in mind, the starting tight end, had all things been normal, would have been Tyler Higbee, but Higbee got hurt last year. Blanton came in. He was pretty solid for them as a backup. He was supposed to be the number 2 tight end if he made the team. Having said that, he's out. It's going to be Bryson Hopkins as the likely tight end, who will likely backup tight end now. By the way, overall 5 players were cut on Saturday to bring the Rams roster down to I believe it's an 80-person limit at this time of year. But the only one that was really notable was Blanton. USC's training camp wrapped up on Saturday. So where do the Trojans stand now? Because after all, their first game versus Rice is going to be September 3rd. That's approximately 2 weeks away. The one thing that I would say from everything that I've read about the Trojans, and I think most of us would agree, is that this team is not deep. So the people who are going to be the first stringers, the starters, they better stay healthy and they damn sure better produce. So when you look at the Trojans, what about pass rusher? What about Corey Foreman? Corey Foreman, the one-time number 1 overall recruit. He's a sophomore. He missed the vast majority of training camp with yet another injury. Defensive coordinator Alex Grinch says that the position hasn't been solidified, edge rusher. And it needs to be, quote, really, really quick, or it's going to be an interesting first couple of weeks, unquote. In other words, who the hell are they going to stop if they can't pressure the opposing quarterback? Now, I have a theory. I'm not necessarily certain it's right. But a guy who was supposed to play nose tackle for the Trojans, Tui Pelotu, who was one of their better defensive players last year, he has taken the role of leading defensive line. He's just been destroying people left and right, and Grinch has not only positioned him at nose tackle, he's positioned him at both ends. He's moving him back and forth. He has been drawing rave reviews from coaches and teammates. So what does this mean? Well, would you theoretically say, okay, we don't know what we're going to be getting out of Foreman, so would you say replace him with Tui Pelotu? have him off to the side. Because if there's one place where they have a little bit of depth, it's apparently at nose tackle. Nick Figueroa is a possibility. So is Dejan Benton, who has been making a big impact. And by the way, you might be saying, well, wait a second, James, wasn't there a guy from Auburn who transferred in to compete with Foreman? Romello Height. You're right, that's true. He's missed a lot of training camp too. So it seems like they're going to rely a lot on Tui Pelotu. And what about the offensive line? Now, we thought going into training camp it was a done deal. Not quite. 4 of the starters are pretty much entrenched. There is, however, a question at left tackle. And this is a problem too, because after all, that's the guy who's going to wind up protecting Caleb Williams' blind side. Bobby Haskins, a transfer from Virginia, versus the returning starter Cortland Ford, a redshirt sophomore. Neither one of them have stood out yet. Neither one of them have claimed the job. Other smaller questions that USC has to answer, these are not big 5-alarm fires that need to be addressed, but you still want to know. Number 3 wide receiver. After all, they run the air raid offense. You need more than 2 wide receivers out there. Number 3, we know Jordan Addison is the first wide receiver. We know Mario Williams is number 2. We don't know who's also going to be out there. Also for inside linebacker, is it going to be Raylan Goforth or Arizona State transfer Eric Gentry, who has made some plays in training camp? Questions for the Trojans to answer. I don't like talking a lot about high school sports on this channel because there's a ton of them. Can I possibly even remotely cover all of the CIF Southern section, the CIF LA section? Of course not. But if you're a UCLA Bruins fan, I want to give you something that should excite you about 2023, next season. Recruit running back Roderick Robinson out of the San Diego area. He's still got his senior year down there at Lincoln High School. He played only the first half of their season opener. Not because he got hurt, but because in the first half alone, he rushed for 186 yards and 4 touchdowns in only 8 carries. And he's coming to UCLA. That's a reason to be pretty excited if I were a Bruins fan. LAFC is nearing an agreement to loan defensive back, or I should say defenseman Mamadou Fall to Villarreal in La Liga. He previously trained with them as a teenager. Oh wait, my bad. He's still a teenager. Yeah, Mamadou Fall, he's been getting a lot of time, but that time has diminished with LAFC as the season ran on. He has scored 1 goal this year. If you recall, LAFC added Giorgio Chiellini, and that they both play central defense. That cut into Fall's time. Fall is not, I wouldn't call him expendable, but sending him over to La Liga is a nice little touch for the guy. Something to think about when NHL training camps break out soon. The Kings, both defenseman Mikey Anderson and Sean Dursey, remain unsigned. By the way, please say hello in a cameo to Cockblocker the cat, desperately looking for my wife. Yeah, Anderson and Dursey remain unsigned. This is an issue because Los Angeles only has $1.5 million in cap space. So how are they going to fit both of these guys in under contract? Question for the Kings, and it's a pretty important one. Anderson is obviously the more important player, but Dursey was a tremendous addition to the team last year. Now, if you enjoyed today's broadcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We are trying to build something here for LA Sports. I'm James. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.